Okey-doke. Okay then, Gav, yeah, ready to go?
Yeah. Yeah, ready when you are.
Okay, Gav. Hello and welcome to the KopTable preview of the Leicester versus Liverpool game down at the King Power Stadium this coming Saturday. For the first time this evening, we will be recording both on Periscope and YouTube for the first time, obviously, and we hope you all enjoy our new format on the show. Today we're going to be joined by Leicester fan Pete Selby. He's been on the KopTable previously. He's also a broadcaster and journalist and a member of the FourFoxSake podcast. Welcome to the KopTable once again, Pete. How are you?
Yeah, I'm sound, chaps. I'm delighted that you got the podcast name right as well.
Yeah, I always struggle with that one, and I've got to be very careful with that one. Excellent pod, though. Yeah. Okay, and for Liverpool, once again, joining me is Jay Riley. Jay is part of the Radio City Fan Friday talk show, also writes for the Liverpool Echo, does a little bit on Redmen TV and LFC TV as well. So welcome back to the KopTable, Jay. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Just recovering a little bit from a bit of a heavy weekend, celebrating it, going top of the table.
Good stuff, yeah. Okay, then, starting off the podcast with you, Pete. Leicester took 3 points on Saturday due to a late winner from Harry Maguire. But what was the overall performance like in that game, and did Leicester deserve the victory in that game?
I don't know whether you could say they deserved to win. Probably a draw, really. They didn't play too well, but it wasn't like they were appalling against a side in Southampton where they really haven't got anyone you fear. So you do go down there thinking you can get 3 points now. All the players who were half decent probably played for you guys, actually, but they've all been sold off. You go back in the years, and even the likes of Letitia, they haven't got these stars at the moment. So it's a place you can get 3 points. And the way Leicester did it was by Puel's selection. What he's done, he's changed the team around to have a lot more pace, athletic ability, and also quite a lot of youth as well, which means that in the last 15 minutes of games, I'm not saying that we were poor before at all, but now we will have an advantage over a lot of teams around that mid-table to lower table area of the Premier League. So when we're drawing games going into the final 10, we look the only team, especially after the red card as well, that we're going to go and get the 3 points. And it was just a matter of time. And it just happened to be old Slabhead himself with a 20-yarder.
Yeah, I think you touched on something there, Peter, about the pace of Leicester City. I think it's becoming pretty obvious now in the Premier League, isn't it? The teams who are winning games are teams with pace. If you look to don't have a dig at them, but Manchester United the other night, they didn't seem to have any pace in the side at all. The play was slow, and I think it's pretty evident now that pace is vital in this Premier League. What's your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. I can't believe we lost to Man U on the opening day, looking at what they're doing now. But it's right, and that's what Puel has done with the side. Obviously, the side's moving on to the team that won a couple of years ago, and he's replacing players with players who are physically fit and, again, very mobile. The one big surprise and the headline of that is by bringing in Mendy, who was a unknown really, because he's only played a couple of games, got injured for a season, went out on loan then for a season, and now he's back. And it was a complete surprise when we played at home against Wolves that he was even in the first team squad, let alone in the first team. And he's been playing very well. Him and Ndidi are two very pacey, combative midfielders, anchoring the midfield, and gives the ability of Maddison and the two wide players along with the forward to not have to get back all the time, because they're going to sit there and get across the park. They can also cover for fullbacks going forward, which we replace Simpson with Pereira, who looks a tremendous signing, and already, yes, he's looking good, and people are saying, how long are we going to hold on for him for? Because he looked tremendous in only 3 games. And obviously Chilwell on the other side next to get forward. So it's a bit of a rebirth of Leicester. They're changing the way they play. They still have some of the old faces there. But yeah, it's looking good at these early stages. But that's what Puel likes. The likes of Simpson out of the side now, King and and other midfielders are not really going to get a go. Even people like Okazaki as well. They're just not quick enough. They're just not agile enough. And in Okazaki's case, he doesn't last 90 minutes even when fully fit.
Yeah, over to yourself now then, Jay. It was a hard-fought victory against Brighton on Saturday evening against a well-drilled and well-organised side, and they caused us a few problems. And good save from Alisson in the last minute to keep us within the 3 points. But what was your thoughts on the performance in general, please, Jay?
Well, I think now when we go to the match, you sort of like expect, don't you, to just roll teams over because, you know, this Liverpool side's capable of doing it to most teams, really, aren't we? And, you know, we've seen last season, we give so many hidings out to teams. So it's just a normal now to go to the match and expect us to roll these type of teams over. The thing is, though, with Brighton, if you analyse the way they performed last season, in quite a lot of the games, they very rarely got hidings. I mean, Liverpool beat them at the end of the season 4-0, and when we played them in December time on their own patch, we beat them 5-1. But if you look at all the other games for them, it was very rare that they took a hiding off anyone else. So, you know, all things considered, I think Chris Hughton's actually quite a good manager, and he has his teams organised, and he certainly does with Brighton. And you know, the thing with Brighton, the tails were up, weren't they? They just beaten Manchester United. And yeah, we know United have had a poor start. We know Mourinho's losing the plot a little bit. But, you know, it's still a decent result for them to beat them, isn't it? Whether it's, you know, on their own patch or not. And they were buoyant, weren't they? Because, you know, they've had a decent start. Only lost their opening game of the season as well. But, you know, he believes in his players, doesn't he? And the philosophy that he's got. And, you know, they come to Anfield with a game plan, and they stifled us for long periods, really. I mean, thought it was a fantastic goal by Salah. He took it really well. But, you know, we didn't really seem to carve them apart the way we have other teams. I mean, I know it's early on in the season now, but I'm talking about last season. We haven't really got out of second gear yet. I mean, and I know we beat West Ham 4-0, but, you know, it was cruise control for most of the game. Against Crystal Palace, we had to show another way of winning. And I thought we had to show another way of winning again on Saturday against Brighton, to tell you the truth. And, you know, credit to them. I mean, people are criticising certain players for not performing, and some players look a little bit undercooked, don't they, from the World Cup, and they haven't had much of a pre-season. But, you know, you've got to sometimes look at the opposition and give them credit where credit's due. And I thought they come with a game plan. They were confident, and he done quite well. And, you know, towards the end, you know, when Liverpool are looking to sort of seal the deal, if you like, and get the second goal, they actually had chances themselves, didn't they? And Alisson had to make a good save towards the end. And this is the problem. If you don't put teams to bed, then, you know, there's always that opportunity. They're going to get at least one chance or two chances in the game, and they might take one of them. And you've got to look at it and say it was a big 3 points, really, all things considered, because we couldn't afford to be dropping points against a team like Brighton, though, with that being said. So, you know, if you analyse last season, we drew 0-0 at home against West Brom. We drew 0-0 at home against Stoke. We also drew 1-1 at home against Everton. And all three of them very poor sides. So, you know, all things considered, it was a big 3 points, really. I mean, I know I'm mentioning Everton there, and people will think that I'm taking the mickey a little bit. I'm not, because if you look at last season, Everton were a very poor side. Albeit now this season, they do look like they're much improved now, and they've got a new manager. But them three sides, Liverpool dropped 6 valuable points, really, last season. So I thought it was a big 3 points, really. And, you know, you've got to give credit to Brighton, all things considered.
Spot on. Cheers, Jay. Okay, then, over to you then, Pete. Jamie Vardy's been missing due to suspension for the past couple of games, and this will be his final game of his 3-match ban on Saturday. How much has he been missed by Claude Puel's side in them games that he's missed, please, Pete?
Well, if Vardy's missing from Leicester team. It's a huge loss. It always will be. The news in the last 24 hours, obviously, that he's semi-retired from England. You know, he said he'll be there in case there's a big problem before a tournament. But that's a massive bonus for Leicester. Him signing a new contract, massive bonus for Leicester. It shows that he's now going to stay there through for the rest of his career. The truth answer is it's not mattered a lot because we've won the 2 games that he's missed. Nice and simple, really. We won at Southampton, and then we won nice and easy in the Cup against Fleetwood the other day, and a game that he wouldn't have played in anyway. But this is the game. This is the one game where we really are going to miss him. And it's to the point of, yes, it was going to be a very difficult game for Leicester anyway, with the massive improvement that Liverpool have made over the summer with the new signings and the way that you've started as well. Obviously, it's a difficult place to go, Leicester, for many clubs, and Liverpool have proved that over the years as well. But that's mainly down to Vardy, especially against the big teams at home. To be honest, you could throw all 19 sides really in there. And without him, I think Leicester's chance against Liverpool, that is, at home, diminishes an awful lot. It drops down no end. Iheanacho really hasn't fired in a Leicester shirt. He looked very sharp against, I know it's against Fleetwood, but very determined, very sharp. He has done all pre-season and when he's played. The one thing I'm slightly worried about with him is that he did overstretch for a cross against Fleetwood and he came off just after half-time. Very Gascoigne-esque in Euro 96. Didn't get there. It was just in front of him. And he was slightly holding the back of his leg. So if he's out, then there is a big problem. But Vardy missing is a huge loss for Leicester. It always will be, but especially against the team where he's had success, and we will need to be at our absolute maximum to get anything from the game, I feel. And for Leicester to be at their best, they need their best player, and that, quite simply, is Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, and also Riyad Mahrez joined Manchester City, didn't he, in the close season? So has there been a direct replacement for Mahrez, or has Puel changed the formations to sort of counteract the loss of him?
We're playing the standard kind of Premier League formation now, where you have 4 with 2 sitting, 3 in front of a lone forward. And Mahrez is placed in the side, and he's gone, and he'll always be a hero for what he's done at the club, and it was time for him to then leave. They've replaced him in one way with a few players. They've finally got a number 10 in Maddison, who looks a very, very good addition, who I imagine will be part of an England squad probably towards the end of the season rather than just now. He looks like he settled into Premier League football very well, already scored. But the Mahrez position, they've signed a guy called Gazelle, is in the animal, who he's Algerian, he's a winger. And we saw him for the first time really last night. Scored an amazing goal, which was very Mahrez-esque. He looks very confident, composed, maybe not as quick, but essentially he looks exactly the same player, if not maybe 2 or 3 inches taller. And whether he's going to get a starting berth, I hope he does. He looks like he's got a set play in him as well. So they've not directly replaced him with a big star signing. They've given opportunities to players. People like Damari Gray, who many people would have seen in the Premier League. He's played over 100 games now for Leicester. He has now been given a run in the side. The 2 wing options, the likes of Gray, also Albrighton, this guy Gazelle, with other people like Diabate, it's open for any of them to really grasp it and take hold and make that position their own, especially Gray. I've got my doubts about Gray, always have done. I just don't think he's good enough to be a regular in the team. I hope he proves me wrong, but he's been given the chance now. This new guy's been given the chance, and it's there for him to take, and only they can do it. So hopefully he plays and we see what he actually can do. He looks to be in favour. He's come off the bench twice in 3 Premier League games. He started a game against Fleetwood, scored a brilliant goal, and hopefully he starts on Saturday against in a proper game.
Excellent stuff. Thanks, Pete. Okay then, Jay. There's been a lot of talk of changes to be made to both the starting lineup and maybe even the formation for Liverpool this coming weekend. Do you see Klopp going with either of them things? Do you see changes to the lineup? And if so, who drops out and who comes in for you? Do you think he will freshen things up?
Well, I mentioned on the last podcast that I thought there was a possibility that Shaqiri might have got a start against Brighton, and if there was someone to maybe miss out, it might have been Roberto Firmino, because he just seems a little bit undercut to me. I've said that a couple of times now. He's obviously come back from the World Cup, and he came back late for pre-season, and he's not really had much of a pre-season, and he just doesn't look fit at all to me. He looks about 70% fit, and we're struggling a little bit up there, and I just thought maybe the change might have been right against Brighton in the sense that you could have moved Salah into the centre and put Shaqiri in Salah's position, and Firmino maybe come on for the last 20 minutes. But as it happens, Klopp selected the same side, and there's the old adage, isn't it, that you should never really change a winning team. And I know we limped over the line, didn't we, against Brighton at the weekend? So it wasn't exactly a convincing performance, but we still got the 3 points. We still won the game. We've won 3 on the spin now. So to be perfectly honest, I don't think it's the type of game to be changing it. I really don't. I mean, Shaqiri, yeah, I think he's a good player. He's an international player as well, but I can't see him changing that front three. I really can't. And like I say, in the midfield area, I mean, if anything, the 3 midfield players have probably been our best performers. Certainly Milner and Wijnaldum. They've been playing out of the skin, so I can't see either of them being left out the side, because, yeah, okay, Jordan Henderson's the club captain and he's ready, fit and available and wants to be starting games, but I just don't see how he dislodges any of that. Well, obviously them two. I mean, Naby Keita wasn't great either against Brighton, but I think he was superb against West Ham, and he done really well against Crystal Palace also. So it's a tricky one, isn't it, really, to say, should there be any changes to the team? I mean, defensively, Gomez and Van Dijk have been fantastic together, haven't they? And Andy Robertson's been the Duracell bunny that we come to know last season. So other than that, I can't really see any changes being made. I just think the type of game that it is, it's a tricky away game, because obviously Leicester is still a good side, aren't they? They won the league a couple of years ago, and I know Vardy being out's a massive bonus for Liverpool, because he does tend to do well against us. He causes us problems and he scores goals against us. I mean, I think he scored 7 in 8 games against us, something like that. So it's a massive loss to Leicester, and it's a bonus to Liverpool. Mahrez as well, leaving to join Manchester City. Very, very good player. I wouldn't have minded Liverpool signing him. Obviously, he's gone to City now, but obviously Leicester haven't got him in the ranks for the game on the weekend. So really, it is a weakened Leicester side, really. But you would look and say, Damari Gray can cause us problems with his pace. Maddison looks a very good player. Liverpool were interested in him, but he wouldn't have really got the game time at Liverpool. So I think it's a sensible move from going to Leicester, where he will play a lot more. And then, of course, you've got to look at the fact that indeed he was another player Liverpool were interested in, and we scouted, and he's a very good player in the middle of the park. They've also got Harry Maguire, who had a fantastic World Cup, really, and was close to a move. I don't know how close, but he was meant to be close to a move to Manchester United for a lot of money. And, of course, in goal, they've got Peter Schmeichel, Kasper Schmeichel. So, you've got to look at it and say, they're quite solid, really. They've got a good spine to the team as well. So I can't see them being easy to break down. And, I think it's going to be a tricky game. Crystal Palace away was always going to be a tough one. But I think this one going to Leicester is also going to be equally as tough, really. And, I think it is a bonus with Vardy being out. And when you look at Liverpool's team, I just think there's no point in changing a winning team. I really don't think there's a necessity to do it, because, as I've said a few times, I've said on radio as well, at this moment in time, we've got gaps in between games. When the Champions League kicks in, that's when you might see a little bit more rotation. At the moment, the last time we played was Saturday. This game against Leicester's on Saturday. It's a 7-day gap. There's no real need to change it, but as we know with Klopp, I mean, he sees them in training, doesn't he? Day in, day out, and he sees fit to choose whoever he wants. And if someone's not quite doing it in training, then he will make a change. But I just can't see there being any changes. I just don't see any need to do it, because there's enough preparation time in between these 2 matches. And then, of course, after this, we've got an international break. So to me, I'd keep the same team, and, let's hope that we can get the 3 points again.
Good stuff, Cheers, Jay. Okay then, Pete. 2 wins from 3 games for Leicester so far this season. We touched on it before about the players you mentioned, but who's been the the standout performer during these opening games for you, please?
I think you have to look at Maguire. It's nice and easy. He stood out a mile at Old Trafford. There was 2 or 3 interceptions, 2 or 3 big headers, which drew audible conversation from the stands. You could even hear it on TV as well. A lot of Man U fans going, that's why we need him. That's why we could do with him. He looked very secure. Obviously, the goal against Southampton, you saw the reaction. I heard mentioning how close was he of leaving. I think the answer is very close indeed. He was. He would have gone if Man U came calling. He would have really have gone. And they did, and Leicester said no, so absolutely fine. He might leave at the end of the season, but he's an absolute rock at the back. They've improved the defence quite a lot. Morgan's still there, still club captain, deservedly so, deservedly in the side, started the season well. They brought in, obviously, Johnny Evans, people know about. They brought in a £10 million Benkovic from Eastern Europe, and also a guy who I'm not even going to try and pronounce until he starts playing from Turkey for 20 million, a centre half. And they will be coming into the side towards the mid part of the season once they're fully up to speed. But it really has to be Maguire, the spine of the side. Maguire, the 2 midfielders, Ndidi, who Liverpool will be interested in. He will be a fantastic midfielder for a Champions League side every year in the next 2 or 3 years. He'll be moving on. Mendy in midfield. And then it's Maddison. It's the spine of the side has looked very good. Yes, it's early stages, but they're the people who have performed very well. And I have to throw in Ricardo as well. We're not too sure whether we're calling him Ricardo or Pereira. It seems to be a complete mixture. The new right winger / right fullback. A slight figure, but has a really good leap on him. And the thing that I like, he's tenacious. So when he's actually tackling, he looks like a fullback. And then when he gets forward, he looks like a winger. He's your typical modern day wingback, and he looks a great addition. Cost quite a few quid as well. So yes, it's an evolving side. I think this year for Leicester, it's going to be a time for not to consolidate ourselves in the Premier League, but to really establish ourselves as alongside maybe Everton or maybe 1 or 2 other sides who think they can be that 7th team. I really do believe that Leicester are that 7th team in the Premier League, and also by the way they're playing and by the squad that they've got, by a distance as well. The side that played yesterday against Fleetwood, it was virtually 11 changes, and it was a very, very experienced side with plenty of Premier League appearances, Premier League winners' medals, and all sorts of international honours throughout the side. They've got a tremendously strong squad now, Leicester. A really, really strong squad. The one thing we have to figure out is the first team as strong as it has been because of the loss of Mahrez and obviously this week the loss of Vardy? I don't think it quite is, but it's a young developing first team. We'll see what happens.
Brilliant stuff. Cheers, Pete. Okay, yeah, similar one for yourself, Jay. 3 wins from 3 for Liverpool, 100% record, no goals conceded. What's your thoughts on who's been Liverpool's standout performers so far in these 3 games? And I know we touched on it before, but who do you think needs to just improve slightly and up the game? Give us a little bit of an overview of the first 3 games, player performances, please, Jay.
Well, we had this conversation, didn't we, the other day in the WhatsApp group about it, and I think obviously we're keeping 3 clean sheets. Virgil van Dijk is just an absolute Rolls Royce of a centre half. For me, he's clearly the best in the Premier League, and obviously one of the best in Europe as well. And he's just fantastic. He's like a Rolls Royce, as I keep on saying about him. He's tremendous. But what you've got to also realise is Joe Gomez he's hardly ever played centre half in his Liverpool career. He's only 21 years of age, but he's been at the club for 3 or 4 years now, and he's played at left back, he's played at right back, and this is his first major run of games, and it's only 3 games, but he just looks fantastic alongside Van Dijk. And we go on, don't we? I mean, last season, Dejan Lovren's coming for a lot of criticism in his Liverpool career, and quite rightly so, because he's error prone. But if you look at the back end of last season when he started partnering Van Dijk in the side, he actually looked a good player, didn't he? Because it just shows you how good Van Dijk really is. But you'd have to say Van Dijk's been one of the standout performers for Liverpool. It's quite clear, it's quite evident. We don't really give up many opportunities to the opposition, let alone, obviously conceded no goals at all at the moment. And Alisson's had a couple of shots to save, and what he's had to do, he's done really well also. So there's two players that have stood out, and well, three if you include Gomez. Andy Robertson's played well in all 3 games as well for me. I think Trent struggled a little bit. I think some of his passing's been off and his delivery into the box is not being great. He's been caught out a few times, but he was a 19-year-old boy, and people forget sometimes. I mean, last season he got terrorised in a couple of games, certainly against Wilfried Zaha, against Palace and against Rashford as well at Old Trafford. But in most other games he done well, and he actually done well in the Champions League final, to be fair to him as well, didn't he? So, you can tell as a player in there, and when you're only 19, you're going to have times when you're struggling a little bit. Now, that's not me getting on the lad's back, but, he's 19 at the end of the day, and it's credit to him that he's in this star-studded Liverpool team. But I do think he's struggled a little bit so far. I said before, didn't I? I think if you're going to pick the standout players in an attacking sense or controlling the game, if you like, I think Milner and Wijnaldum have been outstanding in all 3 games. Keita was good in the first 2, struggled against Brighton. And strangely enough, it's the forward 3 players who are obviously the star men for Liverpool and the ones that make us tick and the ones that, the match winners. They've been a little bit undercooked, haven't they? It's weird. I mean, I said before about Firmino, he struggled in all of the games, really. Mane was okay. I mean, obviously scored 2 against West Ham, played quite well against Crystal Palace, and obviously got the goal that sealed it at the end. And then, you're looking at Salah, saying Salah hasn't really hit form yet, but he got the winner against Brighton on Saturday, and then against Crystal Palace, he was vitally important in that game, really, because he won the penalty, didn't he? And then, obviously, they had a man sent off for a foul on Salah, and then he got the assist for the goal, didn't he, for Mane at the end? And it's mad to think, well, you're looking at it now saying, well, Salah hasn't really played very well yet, but he's been a key contributor, hasn't he, to all 3 games, because he actually scored our first goal against West Ham as well. So it's hard to be too critical about a team that's played 3 games, won all 3 games, and scored 7 and conceded 0. And this is what I was trying to say before. We haven't even really played that well yet. We haven't got out of second gear. The players are not looking 100% in sync. They're not 100% fit. So that's what I'm saying. Going into this game now at the weekend against Leicester, if Liverpool can get another victory on board and make it 12 out of 12 and be basically top of the tree going into the international break, with potential now for more of the fitness levels to come back, deeper into September time, then, it's only positive for Liverpool, isn't it, going forward in terms of wanting to be genuine title contenders, because we've just got to keep on winning at the end of the day. It's tough for Liverpool in September because we've got an away trip to Tottenham, we've got an away trip to Chelsea as well. So, it was a bonus, really, with Manchester City dropping points at the weekend there, but, Chelsea have won all 3 games, Tottenham have won all 3 games, so it's still going to be very tight at the top, and Liverpool haven't got going yet, which is mad, but we've had 3 wins out of 3, so there's certainly no complaints from my angle.
Brilliant stuff, thanks Jay. Okay then lads, what we're going to do now before we play the music that we have on each week, we're going to get a score prediction and a reason for that from you both. So while Leicester's the home team, going to go with you first, Peter. A score prediction and your reasons for that, please, mate.
Well, there's always plenty of goals between Liverpool and Leicester. They're always very good games. No wonder it's been picked for TV. I think it's difficult for me, and it's difficult for any fan of a club to say that they're going to lose, especially when they play at home. I just think Liverpool are the team who worry me most in terms of playing Leicester at the King Power, and then when you're missing Vardy as well, it just, because we've got a great record against you, we've got a great record against Man City as well when we play them at home. I just hope it's a very exciting, quick game, plenty of goals. I'm going to go for either side to win it out of 5 goals. I think it's going to be 3-2 to either side. I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool score in the first 20 minutes. It could easily be 2 or 3-0, and if that happens, I wouldn't be surprised. But for me, I think maybe Leicester probably coming back into it late on, but maybe just not quite getting there.
Brilliant, thanks, Pete. Okay, then, Jay, hit us with your score prediction and your reasons, please.
Right, well, I think we might possibly concede our first goal of the season, because I do think it's a tough place to go, Leicester. I really do. And it's interesting what Pete was saying before about maybe Leicester the 7th best team. And I actually thought that last season, but they had a little bit of a disappointing campaign, really. And I know, like, obviously Everton probably think they're the 7th best team, but I do think it's a toss-up between the two clubs, and it'll be close between the pair of them as well, who does get that 7th position. Because, you know, you've got to look at the top 6 and say they are quite a lot better than the rest, aren't they? So when you're coming up against these teams like Leicester, like Palace, like Everton, especially away from home, they're a big 3 points to get. But I do think, even though I've said there, I think Leicester might score against us and it'll be the first time we concede this season, I just think we'll have that little bit too much for them in terms of firepower. I mean, sooner or later, our front three are going to click. And people might say, well, they scored 4 against West Ham, so they did click them. But as I've just said there, when we've spoken about how the season's gone so far, it hasn't been the front three that we've known going back to last. And if they do click on one game, they could put 4 or 5 past any team, wherever it is. But, you know, I'm not going to be getting carried away with it, though. I do think that, you know, Leicester are pretty solid, as I mentioned before. They've got a good spine to the team, and Didi's a good player, Maguire's a good player, and obviously they've got a good goalkeeper as well. So, all things considered, I think Liverpool will get the 3 points, but I think it'll be hard fought. So, I'll go for a 2-1 Liverpool victory.
2-1 Liverpool victory for Jay. Yeah, I'd go along similar lines to that myself. I think going to the King Power Stadium, obviously it's always a tough game, plus it's an early kick-off as well, isn't it? So sometimes this Liverpool team never gets out of bed for these early games, do they? And it can be a bit of a sluggish start. I've seen it once or twice over the past couple of seasons, so it'll be interesting to see how they start off in this 12:30 kick-off. But yeah, I'm going to say the same. Close game. I think we'll just nick it 2-1 with that a little bit of extra firepower up front. I think personally Shaqiri's going to come in, whether that is for Firmino or Salah or whoever. I think Shaqiri's going to start this game, and I think he's ready as well, because he's looked good, hasn't he? He's looked sharp. When his pre-season scored that great overhead kick, so I think he's ready to attack this Liverpool side himself, and fingers crossed we'll get that victory on Saturday. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory. Okay, just before we go, Pete, I'm just going to introduce the band that we're going to play. The music will get added onto the Periscope and to the audio a bit later on. The guys have been in touch with us on Twitter once again. Played these bands a couple of times over the past couple of seasons. They're called Burning Astronomers. And the song I'm going to play for you tonight is called Peaceful Psychedelia. And that's where we will put the song in. I'll just do the ending now. Okay, so that's the KopTable preview of the Leicester versus Liverpool game this coming weekend. Thanks very much for your time and coming on the show again, Pete.
Yeah, no worries, and good luck with your title race, because I certainly think it's between you and Man City, and from a completely neutral point of view, I hope it's you guys, because I think you've got a brilliant side, some fantastic signings, the goalkeeper Van Dijk. Imagine Van Dijk alongside Maguire. There's 2 centre-halves in the Premier League. Wow, what a defence that would be. But maybe for next season, you never know. But yeah, good luck, and hopefully you win it.
Yeah, that certainly would be some wall at the back, that wouldn't it, with them two? Doesn't really bear thinking about, because the 2 giants in there. Be fantastic. But yeah, we'll see how that one pans out. But yeah, thanks again, Pete, and that's the KopTable preview of the Leicester versus Liverpool game this coming weekend at the King Power Stadium. We'll be back next week with our Spurs preview. Thanks very much, and goodbye. And I'll stop